At the beginning of creation, the letter Aleph was infuriated. How could the Aleph, the first letter, be passed up for a bet to be the first letter in the Torah, as in Bereshit bara Elohim? For 26 generations, the Aleph held that grudge, remained grumpy and despondent. After many centuries, God finally noticed the Aleph's discontent. Aleph, how can I make it up to you? Just tell me and I'll try to make it right. At first, the Aleph didn't even respond except with a childish, muted, "Hurrah." But eventually, it did respond. There's nothing you can do. You had your chance to put me first in the Torah, where I am supposed to be, but you chose that usurper bet. It's too late. You can't fix it. But God was not giving up. Oh, come on, Aleph. Bereshit shmeshit. The beginning is not always the best or the most important part of a story. The whole point of the Torah is for it to be, Torah. Like laws and teachings. Bereshit is just the opening act for the real star of the story. In fact, the world was only created for the sake of the Torah. Aleph was intrigued by this explanation. Really? Well, I guess that makes sense, but it still hurts to have to wait all these years for a chance to shine on my own terms. Oh, don't you worry about that, God responded, because now is your time, and shine you shall. No, Aleph, how would you like to be the first letter of the 10 Commandments? Aleph had no clue what the 10 Commandments were, but had to admit they sounded important. Well, that does sound nice, as long as the first word isn't alone or something depressing like that. No, God assured. In fact, the word is coming right out of my very own divine mouth. Anochi, Adonai Elohecha. I am Adonai, your God. Sounds pretty important, doesn't it? Okay, the Aleph was won over. Wow, I'm honored. You got a deal. I can't thank you enough. God was pleased. Of course, you've waited a long time. You deserve it. Now, this mini drama that I just performed for you is just one of a number of ways our midrashes in Bereshit Rabbah try to explain why the Torah begins with the letter Bet and not with Aleph. Besides how entertaining and clever this midrash is, I love it because it also addresses an important question about the Torah itself. What is more important in the Torah? The stories or the laws? The name Torah, instruction, would suggest the laws are more important. And yet, we place so much value in teaching the stories of our people, and in fact, even enshrine into law the obligation to study and recount its stories along with its laws. On Passover, the key to the Seder is not in discussing the laws of how to do Passover, but in recounting and discussing the lessons and details of the Exodus from Egypt. In this week of Shabbat Bereshit, we have the opportunity to start our story over with the beginning of everything. We get to revel in the mythos of our people and learn from the creation account, as well as read of the first Shabbat, God resting from creation on the seventh day. But as the biblical scholar Richard Elliott Friedman notes in his afterword to his commentary on the Torah, when we go back to the beginning of the Torah, our reading is illuminated by our knowing what is to come in the story, just as it is when we read a later section of the Torah, knowing what comes before. What this understanding teaches us, then, is that the choice between the primacy of story or law is really a false one. Embedded in the story of resting after creation is the future command to keep Shabbat holy. just as embedded in the Ten Commandments is the story of the first Shabbat. Our stories enrich our Jewish practices and observances, just as our observances give power to our stories. As we start our story over again this Shabbat, let us look at our stories with fresh eyes, but also think about what the story of creation is meant to teach us, or how it forms the foundation for the stories and the laws to come. Let us think about how our own personal and communal stories spur our actions in life, and how the way we choose to act enhances the memory and power of our stories. Let this understanding be a rebirth for us and help us refocus on how we want to act in the coming year as we restart our communal story this Shabbat. Let us not be bitter about being in the place of either Aleph or Bet in our lives. Instead, let us realize that both letters have their place in our sacred story, which is also our sacred book of how to live. Shabbat Shalom.